In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, September 2nd, here in South Korea. Ruling and opposition leaders sat down for their first formal talks on Sunday, during which they agreed on broad measures aimed at bolstering public livelihood, but failed to bridge the gap over key differences. Meanwhile, the top office makes public a pan-governmental approach to strengthening South Korea's cybersecurity amid an ever-evolving environment of virtual threats, including by North Korea. And over in Israel, thousands of protesters took to the streets on Sunday, demanding a deal for the release of all remaining hostages held by Hamas, following news of 6 more hostage killings. We start at the Parliament, where the heads of the ruling and opposition parties met over the weekend for their first formal interaction and agreed on broad measures to support people's livelihoods. Our political correspondent Shin Ha-young has details.
The leaders of the rival parties took the first step to breaking a long-standing deadlock between the two parties. On Sunday, the leader of the ruling People Power Party, Han Dong-un, and his counterpart from the main opposition Democratic Party, Lee Jae-myung, held their first official talks at the National Assembly, with each party's top policymaker and spokesperson present. According to the spokespersons of the two parties, the two leaders have decided to set up a joint consultative body to address issues related to people's livelihoods, where both parties have a consensus. The joint statement also included measures to address the dispute related to medical reform.
The leaders decided to urge the government to strengthen emergency care during the Chuseok holiday and agreed to discuss measures at the parliamentary level.
Both sides agreed to boost support for semiconductors, AI, and to ease the debt burden on small businesses and households. The two sides will also swiftly push for a legislative process to extend parental leave for working parents, as well as increase penalties and improve prevention measures for deepfake sex crimes. However, the party leaders failed to find common ground on controversial issues such as providing relief vouchers to the entire population and starting a special prosecution probe into the death of a Marine during last year's flood rescue operations.
The DP sees cash handouts as a measure for people's livelihood, but taxpayer money is limited. We prefer to provide tailored welfare based on individual needs rather than giving everyone the same benefits.
Since this is an economic and fiscal policy rather than a welfare policy, there's no need to disadvantage higher taxpayers. If we can't offer extra help, we should at least ensure fair support for everyone.
They also failed to reach an agreement on abolishing financial investment income tax, but agreed to discuss ways to tackle structural issues in the stock market. Although a major breakthrough wasn't achieved, both parties believe that the first meeting was still valuable for confirming each other's views.
In terms of people's livelihood and economy, the meeting was significant as it may help guide future legislation. The leaders emphasized the need for more frequent discussions.
It was the first time in 11 years that leaders of the rival parties held official talks, and attention is now on whether this will lead to sustained cooperation between the two parties. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
And the 22nd National Assembly is officially celebrating its opening this afternoon, more than 3 months into its term. Initially scheduled for early July, the event was postponed amid bickering between rival parties over pending issues. This also marks the longest wait for an opening ceremony since the constitutional amendment in 1987 that consolidated democracy in the country. Meanwhile, President Seol is not attending the opening ceremony as, according to an official at the top office, he awaits the normalization of the parliament, where opposition lawmakers have been unilaterally passing certain proposals. And the top office has disclosed details of a comprehensive action plan aimed at maintaining cybersecurity in the wake of ever-evolving threats from North Korea. Our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young explains.
South Korea will take a preemptive and offensive response to fast-evolving cyber threats, from hacking and cryptocurrency theft to deepfakes and disinformation spread by malicious actors, namely North Korea. National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik unveiled on Sunday the Yoon Suk-yeol administration's National Cybersecurity Basic Plan, a whole-of-government effort to tackle virtual threats to South Korea's national security, financial institutions, public infrastructure and social stability.
The government will strengthen the Republic of Korea's cybersecurity capabilities, providing a safe cyberspace for citizens and businesses, and strive to become a global pivotal state that fulfills its roles and responsibilities in the international community.
Given the increasingly sophisticated and widespread nature of cybersecurity threats, a total of 14 government ministries and agencies will work on 100 cybersecurity tasks, with the National Security Council acting as the control tower. For instance, the Unification Ministry and the National Police Agency will jointly counter and eradicate North Korea's influence operations, which are aimed at stirring social division through fake news, propaganda and other such tactics. The Defense Ministry will reinforce cyber operation capabilities and work with the Science Ministry to cultivate military cyber specialists. Meanwhile, the Korea Communications Commission will establish standards on tackling disinformation. The Basic Plan prevents follow-up measures to the government's National Cybersecurity Strategy released in February, which comprises of 5 main points. First, Seoul will step up cyber defense activities and establish the basis for responding to influence operations. Second, it will aim to strengthen cooperation with other liberal democracies to create a safe and secure cyberspace worldwide. The government will also strengthen cyber resilience by safeguarding critical national infrastructure, as well as information and communication platforms widely used by members of the public. It also seeks to boost investment in research and development to grow a competitive edge in critical and emerging technologies, and forge cooperation between individuals, firms and government to bolster operation capabilities across a range of sectors. According to the National Intelligence Service, South Korea's public institutions last year were hit with around 1.62 million cyber attacks per day, with 80% of those cases originating from North Korea. The cash poor regime has also stolen over $3 billion of cryptocurrency since 2017, with half of that invested in nuclear and missile development, according to experts. Going forward, Seoul hopes to enact a basic cybersecurity law which would enable domestic intelligence and investigative agencies to respond to international and state-backed hacking groups. Oh-seong, Arirang News.
Households here have been running on a tight budget, that is, over the past 2 years, amid shrinking discretionary income, which refers to money left over after tax deduction and spending on necessities. According to Statistics Korea on this Monday, household discretionary income fell 1.7% on year in the second quarter of this year to stand at a monthly average of just over 1 million Korean won, or about $750. This fall marks 8 consecutive quarters of decline, the longest since data compiling began. The main reasons for this downward trend are soaring inflation, rising interest rates, and a stagnant wage growth. In Israel, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets on Sunday, demanding a deal for the release of all remaining hostages held by the Palestinian militant group Hamas, following news of 6 more hostage killings. Our Ian reports.
Israel's military recovered the bodies of 6 people in an underground tunnel in the southern Gaza city of Rafah over the weekend, all of them confirmed as being hostages held captive by Hamas. 5 of the 6, including 1 Israeli American, were taken during the music festival on October 7th. Israel's health ministry says autopsies show that they were killed by being shot at close range between 48 and 72 hours before being found. The deaths sparked a massive protest in major cities in Israel. Tens of thousands of Israelis poured onto the streets, demanding that leader Benjamin Netanyahu reach a ceasefire deal to bring the remaining hostages back home. The head of Israel's largest labor union also called for a general strike on Monday, demanding that Netanyahu secure the return of hostages. The union wants to shut down or disrupt major sectors of the Israeli economy, including banking, healthcare, and the country's main airport. Thousands of others also gathered outside of the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem, while the families and relatives of hostages marched with symbolic coffins. Senior Hamas officials said that Israel's refusal to sign a ceasefire agreement to end the 11 months of war was to blame for the deaths. But Prime Minister Netanyahu shifted the blame on Hamas, saying Hamas has refused to agree to any deals since December and rejected a number of U.S.-led deals this year. Netanyahu also vowed that the Israeli government would continue to pursue negotiations to get all the hostages back home, and also vowed revenge for the deaths of the 6 hostages. As of Sunday, 101 hostages are known to remain captive in Gaza, with 97 of those having been abducted on October 7th. Meanwhile, American leaders expressed their frustration and anger Sunday morning over the deaths of the 6 Israeli hostages, including Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Polin, offering condolences and support to Hirsch's families. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, in an official statement, condemned Hamas for what she described as continued brutality. But Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump took to his social media platform Truth Social to slam Harris, saying that the hostage crisis in Israel is only taking place because Harris is weak and ineffective, adding that the October 7th attacks on Israel would have never happened under a Trump administration. 이은진, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, intense fighting continues between Ukraine and Russia, with the latter reportedly targeting civilian facilities in the city of Kharkiv and the former industrial sites in the wider Moscow region. Our Iani has the latest.
Rescue teams in Ukraine pulled a man from the rubble after Russian missiles hit a shopping mall and entertainment complex around noon on Sunday. The attack in Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv left at least 47 people injured, including 5 children.
The targets were ordinary civilian structures, a shopping mall, a sports palace, and residential buildings.
This attack follows Russian officials on the same day reporting damage to industrial sites by a Ukrainian drone attack on several areas, including Moscow. Authorities said that Ukraine's drones struck a major power station and an oil refinery, causing fires. Russian officials described this as one of the largest drone attacks by Kyiv since the war began, claiming they intercepted over 150 drones overnight. Kyiv is yet to comment on the drone attacks. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky once again appealed to his allies for permission to use Western-supplied missiles farther inside Russian territory.
And this depends on President Biden, on Prime Minister Starmer, on President Macron, Chancellor Scholz, and others. I thank all those who keep convincing the world to be strong and to finally vanquish Russian terror.
This comes about a week after Russia conducted its most intense airstrike on Ukraine, which targeted energy facilities and other sites. 이은희, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, at the Paralympics over in Paris, badminton players Chang Jae-gun and Yu Soo-young won silver in the men's doubles after a final match against their Chinese counterparts, who also had taken the title at the 2020 Tokyo Paralympics. Both Chang and Yu may bring home more medals as they are set to compete in bronze medal matches in their singles events. In boccia, Chong So-young claimed silver in the BC2 women's individual final match as her Portuguese counterpart took gold. This is Chong's first medal in 12 years as she now seeks gold in the team event starting Tuesday. Staying with sports, golfer Ryu Hae-ran won the LPGA FM Championship at TPC Boston in Norton, Massachusetts this past Sunday, sealing her second career playoff victory. Ryu overcame a 4-stroke deficit at the start of the final round, shooting a 64 with 9 birdies against 1 bogey to set up the playoff before beating fellow Korean Ko Jin-young with a par on the first hole of the playoff. Taking home the $570,000 prize money, Ryu became only the second South Korean player to win on the LPGA Tour this year, joining Amy Yang, who won the KPMG Women's PGA Championship in June. Ryu was the LPGA Rookie of the Year in 2023. Ballet for men and martial arts for women. The pursuit of hobbies for health here in Korea is no longer determined by gender. Our Choi Soo-young files this report.
A private ballet academy in Gwangjin-gu district in Seoul. 42-year-old Ho Yun-ho, who is a government official, has been learning ballet for 7 years.
About 10 years ago, I watched a ballet performance and thought it was really great. Most of the people I watched together with were also doing ballet as a hobby, and they encouraged me to try it too.
He said a 19-minute class burns as many calories as a football game. Within just 5 minutes of starting, his whole body is already covered in sweat. As the only man in the evening class, Seo said he doesn't have time to feel embarrassed or think about being the only male.
As you can see, I'm sweating a lot. There's no time to think about others. I'm too busy just doing ballet. They are just my colleagues, that's all. I don't really worry about it. I just dance hard without thinking much, like everyone else.
Kim Min-kyung, the director of Paralympics, said that more men are asking about ballet lately, either to fix their body shape or simply because they love dancing. She added that men can start ballet in shorts and a t-shirt, just like in any other fitness activity.
Men often hesitate because of the outfit at first, but you can wear whatever feels comfortable, just like when you're in a fitness center. Ballet has many benefits like improving posture, so I highly recommend it for men too.
The distinction between calm and intense exercises is now just a matter of looks. At a Brazilian jiu-jitsu academy named Movement in the Seocho district of Seoul, the place was packed with people learning various techniques. Recently, many women have become interested in martial arts, so many have started taking classes in sports like boxing and jiu-jitsu. Master Im Tok said that about 40% of his students are women currently, as interest in self-defense has grown.
Due to hormonal differences, it is generally not easy for women to beat men in physical combat in martial arts. But in jiu-jitsu, you learn technical skills that can overcome these physical gaps. So it's often said to be a sport where women can beat men. I think that's why more women are interested in it as a self-defense sport. Kim Mi-ji, who has been practicing jiu-jitsu for 6 years, said it helped her regain a healthy lifestyle and become more energetic. She understands why some women might feel uncomfortable about the inevitable contact between bodies in jiu-jitsu.
Since it's a sport mostly done by men, people often ask how I can do it with such body contact. But it's really just exercise. In fact, it's more fun for women because it gives you the confidence to handle yourself in any dangerous situation. I think that makes it even more enjoyable.
Susan, who has been living in South Korea for 7 years, has spent most of her free time here practicing jiu-jitsu.
I highly recommend it to everybody, especially to women, because I think it's very empowering and you really realize the strength that you have, and you may not realize that you have it.
The common understanding that personal beauty and confidence don't require gender distinctions is becoming one of the region's gender boundaries in hobbies are fading out. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Let's move on to the world now. Starting off in Germany, where a far-right party is set to win a state election for the first time since World War II. According to the exit polls and partial results that Germany's public broadcasters have reported for Sunday's election, the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, is leading with 32 to 33% of the vote in the state of Thuringia, in the eastern part of the country. The center-right Christian Democratic Union, the main national opposition party, follows with about 24% of the vote. The surge in support for populist parties in Thuringia has been attributed to internal government divisions, anti-immigration sentiment, and skepticism towards German military support for Ukraine. This area, once part of East Germany, is economically less developed than Western Germany and is where the AfD has its strongest support. According to a recent ABC News and Ipsos poll, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is maintaining a more favorable position in the race against former President Donald Trump and is also running a better overall presidential campaign. In a nationwide survey, 56% of Americans rated Harris' campaign as excellent or good, compared to only 41% for Trump, with most viewing Trump's campaign negatively. In particular, 93% of Democrats, 56% of independents, and 24% of Republicans gave positive evaluations of Harris' campaign. In contrast, only 79% of Republicans, 38% of independents, and 13% of Democrats had a positive view of Trump's campaign. While Harris hasn't seen a significant post-convention bounce in polling numbers, she has increased support from female voters, further widening the gender gap. Meanwhile, according to a Kremlin spokesperson on Sunday, Russia views Harris as a more predictable opponent than Trump, but noted that relations with Washington are unlikely to improve regardless of the outcome. In Turkey, where thousands of demonstrators gathered in Istanbul on Sunday to protest against a recently passed law they say puts stray dogs at risk of being killed. Last month, lawmakers passed legislation aimed at removing millions of stray dogs from the streets due to safety concerns. However, animal rights advocates fear the law will lead to widespread culling or that stray dogs will end up in overcrowded shelters where disease is rampant. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated that the law is necessary to address what he called a stray dog problem. Protesters held posters that read "Shelters are death camps" and demanded the law be repealed. A 4-year-old boy named Ariel, who accidentally broke a 3,500-year-old jar, returned to the museum a week after the incident. The hacked museum in Haifa, Israel, stated that they wanted to invite the boy back for educational purposes and to ensure the young family felt welcomed. During the visit, the child presented the museum with a clay vase he had made himself. The boy had visited the museum with his family on August 23rd when he accidentally broke the ancient jar. This jar was originally made between 2200 and 1500 BC to hold wine or oil. 윤세영, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The first workday of September started on a breezy and cloudy note for the capital area in Gangwon-do province. Wet clouds that dropped spotty rain in the upper region should move to southern provinces this afternoon. And until tomorrow, east of Gangwon-do and Jeju could see 5 to 40 millimeters of showers. The rest of the country will see 5 to 20 millimeters. After a sunny and scorching weekend, central parts of the country are getting heat relief under cloudy skies. However, Daegu and other southern provinces should see heat alerts remaining in place with highs hovering above 30 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gyeongju will make it to 32 degrees, and Seoul and Chuncheon will be topping out at 27 degrees Celsius this afternoon. But today's relief does not mean the summer heat has come to an end. Temperatures jumped right back to 30s in the capital under partly to mostly sunny skies this week. That's Korea for you. Here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session, so do stay with us.